Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about creating timesheets. We'll do a few different examples. We'll do basic ones in this case. Maybe if there's enough interest, we'll do a more robust system with like clock in and clock out using web apps at some point. But for now, let's just do something basic. We'll try to create a timesheet. I have a blank spreadsheet. The first one, I'm going to do an individual timesheet, so for just one person. Let's say we're going to have the date. We're going to have the name of the person. So they'll be entering the date. Something like that. And then their name. And again, you could have like a company name, whatever else on top. But that's not really the important part. We want to get to more like time ins and timeouts and how do we actually do the math. So the first thing I'm going to do a column for day. And we'll do a column for time in. We'll do a column for timeout. And we'll calculate a number of hours worked. I'll do something like Monday through Sunday here. So I'll type Monday. I'm going to click on that one. We'll just drag that down to fill the rest. So that's our Monday through Sunday. Maybe we'll do this bold a little bit. Make it look nice, I guess. Maybe a little background. I'm not going to concentrate too much on formatting. So we have our time ins. So time in, let's say this is 9 a.m. That's our time in. So timeout, let's say would be 4 p.m. And then on Tuesday, here we go. And let's say Sunday, there is nothing. So we want to calculate hours worked. So we have time in, we have time out. We want to know how long it takes. So to calculate hours, what we do, first of all, we need to take a look at this times. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at this times, not in time formatting, but in general formatting to see what's going on. So if I take all of this, go under format and format all of this as a number. See, what I get is 0.38, 0.67, 0.38, 0.69, 0.38, whatever these things mean, right? So I'm going to undo that. So let me explain to you what those numbers actually are. So for example, if I go here and type 12 p.m., let's also do something like 6 p.m. That would be helpful. And we'll do something like 12 a.m. as well, which is basically beginning of our day. And let's just throw that. I'm going to move this. Let's just throw something in a mix like 9 a.m. And we have to make sure we do proper time. Good. So now if I look at this, let's keep this so we can see side by side. I'm going to switch all of that to number. So what I'm getting here is 12 a.m., which is the start of our day, is 0. 12 p.m. is half of our day, which is 0.5. So 9 a.m. is about 38% of the day. We get 0.38. And 6 p.m. is 75% of the day. So basically the way we store times, this is basically a fraction, which is a percentage of the day. And when we look at these numbers over here, that will be basically percentage of the day again. So why is this important? Well, when you do time math, you always have to keep this in mind when you do this. So when I do calculation for hours, I'm going to do equals. I'm going to take the time out minus the time in. I'm going to hit enter. Now the difference between two times should be the number of hours, right? So first of all, we don't want this to be in this formatting. We want to change this to some sort of number formatting. So what I get is 0.29, whatever that means. And what that means is that really what we did, we took, let me format this numbers. We took the 0.67 minus 0.38. The difference is 0.29. And that's exactly what you're gonna get. So we just do basic math. Okay, so this is not number of hours, definitely. So what this is we worked 29% of the day. That's what it tells us. So now we need to convert that to number of hours. So what do you do to make that happen? You take that percentage, which is 29% of the day, and multiply it by the number of hours we have in a day. So we have 24 hours. So if total is 24 hours, we worked, let's say 10% of the day. Then we're gonna take 10% of that 24 hours. That will be 2.4 hours, right? So same thing goes on here. So if we do this, see, that's number of hours. So we get 7 hours worked. We clocked in 9 a.m., timeout, that's hour worked. So basically we have this minus this in parentheses because we have to do order of operations. This needs to go first, multiply by 24, and we get our number of hours. So if I drag this down, see, all of these are what they are, and this one is 0. So hopefully this makes sense. Now I shouldn't need this. I'm gonna clear that. So this is nice. We get number of hours. So the first problem we might have with this formula, if we have overnight shifts. So let's say we don't clock in 9 a.m. and leave 4 p.m. Let's say we clock in really late. Let's say we clock in 9 p.m. and then we clock out 6 a.m. So if we clocked in 9 p.m., basically we're gonna work 3 hours here. And then when we clock out 6 a.m., we work 6 hours the other day. So this should be 9 hours difference. Now we're gonna get this negative 15 now. Well, for the same reason we already discussed. So we have just numbers. This is 0.25, this is 0.88, this minus this, that's a negative number, and we multiply by 24, we get what we get. Okay, so what do we do to make that work? So I'm gonna undo this. So far our formula is this minus this, so timeout minus time in. So what I'm gonna do, let's first of all understand what we're about to do to fix this problem, right? So if I do just that basic thing, I do timeout minus time in, and just switch this to number to see what I get. That gives us negative 0.63. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say equals this plus 1. Because it's a negative number, I'm gonna do plus 1. I'm gonna get this 38%. So 38% is what I really worked. So we worked 9 hours of the day. So we worked 38%, which means if we take that 38% and just multiply it by 24, we should get the 9. This is what we're looking for. So what we should do when we go to a negative number, we want to take whatever that difference is and add 1 to it to get our real percentage. When it's not a negative number, we're not going to do that adding 1 to it. So you could do this multiple different ways. One approach would be to do an if function to handle this. So you could have said, if that difference is a negative, let's try to do plus 1. If it's not, we're not going to do that. Or another way to handle this is to use mod formula. So if I do mod, so what it is, basically it's going to show us what's the remainder of a number if you divide it by a number. So I'm going to take this thing, comma, and I'm going to divide it by 1. So that's going to give us the remainder, which in this case is going to be exactly that 0.38. So, and again, keep in mind, this may look a little weird because this says 0.63 and this is 38. This is just formatting issue. So if we just add more decimal points, you'll see that it's just because it's rounded up. That's why we get those. But now see, they will actually add up to that 100%. But I'm going to go back. We don't really care about those formatting issues right now. So that's going to be this. Now let's test this when we have times in the same day. So I'm going to do AM for this one. and PM for this one. So now we're clocking in and clocking out the same day. There it is, 0.38, which is correct. And the mod of that is still going to be 0.38. So basically we're saying if we divide that by 1, what's going to be the remainder? And by doing this modulus operator, basically, we're going to be able to get that number with not a lot of headaches. So what we're going to do to use this in our formula, instead of doing what we did here, we're going to take that and change it to this new formula. We're going to do the mod of this minus that. And we want 1 as a second argument. That will give us that difference. And then we'll take that, because that's a percentage, and multiply by 24 to get our final number of hours. Now we're going to take that and we're going to drag it down. And this works for normal times. Now let's try something overnight. Clock in 11 a.m. Clock out 2 p.m. So that should be only 3 hours. And here we go. So far so good. We're getting very close to doing our final formula. The only thing here is that if somebody goes in here and they put the time in, but they forget to put the time out, like this is still going to calculate, and see we get 13 hours because it takes this, which it treats as 0. So we get this crazy result. So we need to make sure this doesn't happen. So what we want to do, we want to only do this calculation if both of these are filled in. So what we can do, we can use this function count. And what this function is going to do, if we do count of these 2 cells on the left, it's going to give us 2. And that just counts. There are 2 things here. Now, if you leave one of them blank, it's going to give you 1. If you leave 2 of them blank, it's going to give you 0. And when both of them are filled in, you're going to get a 2. And we're going to use this in our advantage. So we'll say if this count is 2, we'll know that both are filled in. So I'm going to take this off. We'll go back here. Now this is the formula that does the math, but we only want to do this if both of these are filled in. So I'm going to take that formula and cut it with my Control X or Command X. And I'm going to start with an if function. So I'm going to open parentheses for if function. I'm going to say if the count of these two, B7 colon C7, that's the range, if that equals to 2, remember that count is going to give us 2 when both of them have some time in them, comma. Then we want to do the math. So I'm going to paste the mod function, comma. Otherwise, we will have to decide what we want to do. So we may want to just do 0 as a time, or if it's not 0, maybe we want to do a blank. So if you wanted a 0, you just type a 0, close parentheses. So still, it's going to do the same thing. If I drag it down, this is 0. But if I leave, for example, this one blank, see, this goes to 0. Or if we leave this one blank, it goes to 0. Both are blank, still goes to 0. Now, we could do that. If you didn't want 0 and you wanted to leave it blank, you could just do double quotes as the last argument. And this way, it would just leave it blank. You could also say enter times, something like that. For me, I like to keep my columns the same data type. So because we have numbers in this column, I prefer to do a 0 to keep everything as a number. And that's what I'm going to do, but it's up to you how you want to handle this. Now we have a working formula, so we should be able to just clear this timesheet, which should say all zeros. And when somebody goes in here to enter times, it should just calculate 9 a.m., time in. Let's say we clock out 3 p.m., 6 hours. Now, you might want to also include your total hours worked. We'll do something like total. And to do our total hours worked, we'll simply just sum those hours on top. See how clever Google Sheets is? It figured out what the range is. Good. That's 2970. So you might just have this precise hours that we have right now. Or in some cases, you don't want to have all this like 20-minute and all that stuff. So you may decide to round that number to the nearest whatever you want to round it to. So what you would have done in that case, you would just take this formula. I'm going to cut that and put it inside of a round function. And we want to round whatever that formula would give us. So I'm going to paste it, comma. And what do you want to round it to? So you can round to full hours. You could just do 0 as the precision. It will just round all of this to full numbers. So the way it's going to work, if it's 6.5 or more, it's going to go 7. And if it's less, it's going to go 6. So we might want to have this result. So if it's 6, it's going to stay 6. If it's 7.5, it's going to stay 7.5. If it's 820, it's going to go to 8. And if it's, let's say, 840, it's going to go to 8.5, right? Something like that. So let's actually create that case. Something like that. 33. It's good enough. So if you want to do that, you can use this other function. So I'm going to take this if, and I'm going to put it inside of the function called MROUND. And MROUND will basically give you a factor that you can round to, which will not always be like a whole precision. So I'm going to paste that. That's the number we want to round. I'm going to do comma, and the precision I want to do is 0.5. That's the factor. I'm going to hit enter. This is still going to stay 6. Let's pay attention to what happens to this too. See, this went down 820. This went up 850. Now we're rounding to half hour. So you don't really have to do this roundings. Depends on how it works. So this would probably be a little different formatting. But again, as I said, I don't want to spend too much time on formatting. So I can do this paint format, do here, paint format, do here. That should take care of our hours and everything. Now, you might need to also add the rate. So the rate could either be something that's different for each one of these. And in that case, you would just put this rate column here, and you would just do your rates for each. But for most cases, I assume rate is going to be the same. So in that case, we'll just do rate here. Make it the same format as that. Let's say the rate is $22 an hour. And that's this. Now we want to figure out how much the total is. So we'll do total, whatever you want to call this. And I'll do equal sign. Now I need to take this 6 hours, multiply it by the rate, 22. Hit enter. So that will be 132. So now I need to drag this down. So the problem I'm going to have when I drag this down, see, I'm getting a bunch of zeros because this cell on top is going to move down from 22 to the next blank cell. So if I look here, it's taking this 7.5 and it's multiplying by the blank. That's a problem. So we don't want that to happen. So we go back, and this B3 is the one that shouldn't be moving. So we'll lock it. So we highlight B3 part and we do F4 on our keyboard. And that adds these $2 You can also manually type those $. It's going to lock that in place, that $22. So we can actually drag this down. And now I can do this. You can also do your currency formatting or whatever you have to do. And then finally, you have your total. So we can do a sum. And see, it guessed what I'm trying to do. I'm going to hit enter. And that's our total. And now we should be able to just clear these and let people enter their times. And it should just calculate totals. So this would be a timesheet example if we're just doing it for one person. So one person. Let's do another one. So let's say we have multiple people in our company and we want to know how many hours they worked each day. So we'll do like weekly timesheet. I'm gonna do name. That's the name of the person. I'll just add some names here. All right, so that's good enough. So we have some names. Zoom in just a little more. So again, you'll do your like styling here. You make it bold. Maybe you do some backgrounds and things like that. Make it look pretty. So if you want to learn how to do all this styling stuff, watch my basics tutorial. That should cover that. So again, I'm gonna need time in and time out. And probably hours. So I'll just copy and paste that over and I'll make this the same. This will be our people. Now we have to somehow put Monday, Tuesday, days a week here as well. So we'll just keep this for Monday here. And I'll use this merge cells to merge those cells together. And I'll just say, this is Monday. We'll click on this. We'll make it centered. We'll make it bold, we'll make it bigger. You might want to add some like borders to have some lines, but that really doesn't matter here. So that will be our model for a day. And we'll still have like time ins and time outs. So, oh, I forgot. I cleared these, so I'll have to type them again. So it's gonna go the same way. We're gonna just type the time in and time out for each. We probably need hours. So it's still gonna be the same formula. So time in, time out, right? We have hours. Should be able to just copy that. I'm not gonna do the rounding this time, just the if function, copy that. Go back, equals this, and see the rows are matching now. So I'm going to change this to 6, this to 6. Again, I'm not going to go over the whole formula again. Hopefully you understood what I did the first time. Now we need to make that a number. And we're going to drag it down. And if we have more people, we should be able to just drag this more and have them for these new people as well. For now, that's good enough. So this is just for Monday. Let's zoom out a little bit because I need some space. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just take this Monday time in, time out, go to this corner, bottom right, and just try to drag it. So see if I go by 3, I got my Tuesday. So we want to make sure you go by 3 when you're doing this. So I'm going to undo this and I'm going to start over. So I'll take this. So I go 3, 3, 3, right? And obviously you want to keep going until you get Sunday. But since I want to be zoomed in this tutorial, I'm just going to go until Thursday. That's enough. And here we pretty much have to do the same thing. So I'll just do a little copy paste job here. So I'll take this, copy, paste, paste, paste. Now let's just check these formulas to make sure the copy paste worked well with our formula. See, it's doing the right cells. That's a good sign. You always want to check your formulas if you're copy pasting something with a formula. That's important because you may not always get the results you anticipate. Here we go. Here we go. So that's all our hours, different days. Now people should be able to just go in here and enter whichever day they worked and however many hours. So let's say this one is 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. clock out. That's our 7. And then finally, after you do all of this, you might want to get your totals. So I have all of these columns. I want them all to be smaller. So I'm going to highlight all the columns together. I'm going to go and resize one. And that highlighting allows me to resize all the columns to be exactly the same size. It's good enough. So this time in, time outs, all of this, you could center it, maybe make it smaller. Where's the font size? There it is. So now we want our total hours worked. So we want this, plus this, plus this, plus this. And then if you have other weekdays going this way, you probably want to sum those two. So we'll go here, and to keep this formatting, I'll just, I guess, drag this way. See, we have this Friday, but that's too big. So I'm going to go back here and unmerge this. I'll take that and clear the formatting. And instead of saying Friday, this will be my total. I'll just call this hours. So I'll just copy paste this one. And here we'll have to just sum those up. So there are a couple of ways of doing this. The easy way would do equals this plus this plus this plus this, and then plus the other 3 days. Should be a good formula to use. You could also do SUMIFS. So I'm going to do that method too. So if you want to use this, this is a good method. Just saying this is fine. You can do this. You can also do SUMIFS to make this happen, to make this a little more complicated for advanced users. So the first parameter in SUMIFS is going to be sum range. So I'm going to just select this range, comma. So then we have the criteria range. So the criteria range is going to be this range of labels on top, comma again. And we only want to sum those labels when the label is hours. So we're not summing labels, we're summing the actual numbers. But let me just type this and go over this again. Close this. So basically this is the sum range. Now we don't want to sum up this 8 a.m., 4 a.m. We just want to pick up this 8, this 0, and this 8, right? Hours. And the way we do it, we say this is the criteria range, which is this labels on top. And we're saying only sum up this number if this label matches whatever label we're after. So we're after hours label. So it's going to check if this is hours, it's going to add this number. If this is hours, it's going to add this number, and so on. So this should give us the same result. Maybe not the same formatting, but the result is the same. Now we want to be able to drag this down. So to drag this down, we need to make sure that this B5 through M5, which is this labels, when we drag, we want to keep the same labels on top. So we do F4 to lock that. And then we take the sum range. So with sum range, we want that to move to the next row because we're going to calculate the total for the next person. And this hours, again, we don't want it to move. It should always check for hours, which is the label that's on top. So we'll do F4. That's going to lock that too. I'm going to hit enter. And I should be able to drag this down, get the same thing. If you wanted to have decimal points, again, you could format this as different type. But that's our total hours. Now you could also do the rate. If we want the rate, we will do the rate per person. So then you would type how much each person gets paid per hour. So we'll just do $sign and some dollar amounts. And then we might want to calculate our totals. So what we'll do, we'll just say, let's take number of hours, multiply by the rate. And since this is all totals, maybe I shouldn't have done what I did. I should have kept, I guess, this merged, but I'm going to select that and merge it again. That is merge cells. And then obviously you could go here on top and do date. I'm going to do control semicolon to get my date. So there's the date, right? You could format this. And if you wanted the total for everything, you would do another total line here. Always keep a line, at least one blank line between your data set and your totals. Now, we're not going to total the time ins or time outs. That wouldn't make any sense. But we could do the sum of hours here. That's going to sum this. Now I want to copy that formula here, here, here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just copy the cell, paste it, paste it, paste it. Again, the total for hours and the total for wage. That should do all of that. You can then format this, make this pretty. I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible. And you could also calculate your average rate equals average function. And then those are the rates, average rate per hour. And that should cover most of what you need to cover. Obviously, you can add more text here on top, whatever you want this to be. And then we can resize these and make it the way you want this to look. And that should be a couple of basic timesheet examples. One weekly for many people, and the other one weekly for just one person. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.